What's up, guys? I'm Dwayne,
I'm Alicia.
and we are Blackboard Gaming, where we teach you about all these great board games that are out there, waiting to be played by you and yours.
I'm a simple man, don't wanna complicate ya.
Today we're going to talk about Stonemaier Games' upcoming release, Red Rising.
Red Rising is designed by Jamie Stegmaier and Alexander Smith.
Let's go to the table for an overview of how this game is played. Red Rising is a game for 1 to 6 players where the players represent a house trying to rise to power by assembling a loyal clan of followers. To set up the game, we will place this board in the middle of the table in reach of all players. And then we would take this deck of character cards, after giving them a really good shuffle, and place them in this designated spot on the board. And we would take this rising die and place it somewhere near the cards. So let's just place it right here for now. And then we would deal 2 cards to each of the 4 locations on the board, making sure that the cards are overlapping where all players can see the name, the point value of the card, and the color of the card. Each player will then draw 5 character cards off the top of the deck. Then they will receive a random house tile and get all the components of that matching color. So I will get 10 of these influence cubes, 1 fleet token, and a reference card. Note that this is the deluxe version of the game, so the components in the regular game will differ. Each player will place their fleet token on the 0 spot on the fleet track at the top of the board. Since we're setting up for a 2-player game, we would take 3 influence tokens of an unused color and place them into the Institute. We will place this tray that holds all the helium tokens near the deck of character cards on the board. Then we would take this sovereign token and put it in reach of all players. So maybe right there is okay. And then we will randomly choose a first player, and they will get this first player token. Unless that one of the players randomly chose the House of Apollo. So the House of Apollo gets to take the first turn and the last turn of the game. So they will automatically get the first player token. Before we go any further, let's check out the character cards. So all the character cards, they have a name, they have a color. There are 14 colors in the game. They have victory points that you can score at the end of the game. They have a deployment ability, and then they have potential victory points you can score at the end of the game if you meet the requirements of this card. So like this card is worth 14 points, but you can get 16 more points if you have the most influence on the Institute or tie for the most. So this could be worth 30 points to you. This guy, he's worth 20 points. But he will get 15 more points if he is with no other goals. So I have to point out, like over here on the left-hand side, see that goal with the X? That gives you an idea of what you need to have for this to score these extra points. This guy over here, he's only worth 9 points. But at the end of the game, if each of the cards in your hand is a different color, he would get 31 more points. So that's 40 points here. This guy over here, he has an end game ability that pops off. So at the end of the game, you trigger this ability and you could treat this card as if any other one other color in addition to the gray. So this is gray, but you could treat it as an orange. And that's some of the things that you have to pay attention to when you're playing this game. On a player's turn, you can either do the lead action or do the scout action. The lead action is as follows. You will look at your hand of cards and you would choose one and deploy it at any one of these locations. So let's say I took this guy, deployed him here. And then his deployment ability will pop off. So this guy says gain the sovereign token. So I deploy him here, and I will gain this sovereign token. So whenever a player gains the sovereign token, their selected house has an ability that goes off. So since I have Apollo, this says whenever you gain the sovereign token, even if you already have it, reveal and place, not deploy, the top card of the deck on any location. So I will be able to do that ability. Each of the houses has a different version. So like this one, whenever you gain the sovereign token, gain 1 helium. This was like if you gain the sovereign token, advance once on the fleet track. This one, whenever you gain the sovereign token, place 1 influence on the Institute. But since I'm the House of Apollo, by gaining the sovereign token, I activate that house's ability, and that's to reveal the top card of the deck and place it in any one of these locations. So let's say I place it here. Now I'm going to finish off my lead action. I deploy the card, activated its ability by deploying it, and then I get to take a card from any one of the other locations and gain the corresponding bonus of that location. So if I was to go here, get this card, I take this card, put it in my hand, I'll go up once on the fleet track. If I go to this location, take this card into my hand, I will gain 1 of these helium tokens, place it in my play area. I go here, take this card, I can place 1 of my influence tokens into the Institute. Let's say on a later turn, I played the card somewhere else and then went here, then I would gain the sovereign token. If I didn't like any of these 3 cards, I can take a card off the top of the deck, place it in my hand, and then roll this rising die and gain the corresponding bonus. So I roll it, boom. That means I could banish a card. So let's say banish. I don't want my opponent to be using this ability to keep getting the sovereign token, so I banish. He's removed from the game. There are ways to get cards that are banished back into the game. Rolling this die, you get helium. You got this, you get to reveal the top card of the deck, place it in any location. Here you get to place an influence cube in the Institute. You get the sovereign token. You get to move up once on the fleet track. And that would end my turn if I did the lead action. If I did the scout action will allow me to take a card off the top of the deck, place it into any one of these locations, and gain the corresponding bonus. So let's say I place it here, and that would let me place an influence cube into the Institute. And that's pretty much what you're doing in the game. You're trying to build a hand of followers that will give you the maximum points that you can get when the end game is triggered. And you notice that the characters play off each other. So you really got to pay attention to these cards. So how is the end game triggered? At any point in the game when someone, their fleet token is on the 7 on the fleet track, and then someone has 7 influence cubes in the Institute, and someone has 7 of these helium tokens in their play area, that would trigger the end of the game. If one player had achieved 2 of these things, so let's say this player had this and this, then that would trigger the end of the game. Then we will make sure all players have the same number of turns and the game will end. Except since I'm the House of Apollo, I will get the very last turn. So pretty much I get an extra turn. At the end of the game, the players will count up their victory points from their position on the fleet track. The player will count up their influence cubes in the Institute, and whoever had the most influence cubes will get 4 points per cube. Second player will get 2 points per cube, and all other players will get 1 point per cube. If there were two players tied for first, they will both get 4 points per cube in the Institute. The players will get 3 points per helium token in their play area. The player that has the sovereign token will get an extra 10 points. And then we would count up all the scores on our cards. Now, if you have your hand limit is unlimited, but for every card over 7, you actually get minus 10 points. So you have to keep that into consideration. So, like I said, you score your cards. This card got me 9 points, but all of them are different colors. So I get the full 40 points. I got 20 points for this guy. He's only gold. I get 15 points. This guy gives me 13 points. And then 17 if there are 4 or fewer banished cards at the beginning of in-game scoring. So there's like 3, let's say there were 3 banished cards, I would get that 17 points. So that's worth 30 points. This one gave me 14 points. I didn't have the most influence, so it's only give me 14. 16, didn't get a silver, so I only get the 16. And so once I calculate all those points together, whoever has the most points is the winner of Red Rising. So Red Rising is based on a series of novels written by Pierce Brown. With that said, how do you think the theme comes through in this game?
So, even though the theme is based on the novel series, you can play this game and understand it even though you haven't read the novel. But I do believe that there are enough thematic elements that you would enjoy it more if you knew the backstory.
Yeah, so how I feel about the theme, the theme is in there, but being that I've never read the books, the game is more of a setting right now.
Yes.
But once I start reading the books, because the character cards make me interested in the story.
I could see that.
So so it's drawn me in enough to where you bought the books for me, and I'm gonna start reading them. And now, the more I learn about the story of the characters, then I think this game will become more thematic and less of a setting right now.
Yeah.
So I do and think this game has theme.
Yes.
All right, what do you think about the components?
So, of course, we have the deluxe version.
Right.
The components are nice. The Metal Institute tokens.
Yeah.
The Metal Fleet trackers. And I like the dice. I just like die anyway, so the die is cool.
Right.
And
What?
I really like the cards. I just like that extra embellishment on the gold cards.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
You like that glitter stuff.
Yeah, I like a little. I like a little bling. Like not too
Bling?
much.
Okay.
A little bit.
So the deluxe version is a little blinged out.
Yeah, and what's wrong with that?
I don't know what's coming in the regular game. I would say I have only one small gripe, but that's more my issue than the game. Is like the blue influence cubes and the green influence cubes. They kind of like hard to tell apart, but that's just my old man eyes.
Yeah, old man.
Oh, okay. Look, I'm pointing it out. And I don't know if the card holders come with the base game, but we didn't use those.
We tried.
Right, we did try, but we kept knocking the cards over.
So we just put them in our hand and kept it moving.
Yep. So so that's how we feel about the components.
Yes.
What did you think about the art?
I like the art. The art is bold.
Yeah.
It's colorful. It's vibrant. And it just gives the game a dramatic flair. So I really think the art is just good.
Yeah, so my thoughts on the art, let me start with the box art. When I go to a board game store and I'm looking for new games that have shown up, the box art of this game would have had me at hello. Like I would have saw the box art and be like, okay, what is this about? Because it just looks like what's the word you use, dramatic?
Yes.
Like what is this about?
Yes.
So that drew me in right away.
Yeah.
The art on the character cards. I love the uniqueness of the different characters.
Yes.
It really makes me want to learn more about each character.
Yes.
Because they're all different.
Yes.
They have like subtle differences and all that, and you notice them in the cards.
Yes, they're unique.
So I do love the art in this game.
Yes, yes.
What did you think about the mechanics?
So I'm used to card drafting, but I'm used to deck building, but this was a little bit different for me.
Yeah, when I introduce you to a game, it's more tile placement, worker placement. We've done some deck building, but I don't think you've ever the closest you've come to hand management will be when we played Fort.
Yeah.
So
So actually, that was interesting because the cards or the characters play off of each other. So once I noticed, okay, if you get such and such a card, you get 30 more points. I was like, okay, I need to get that guy. So yeah, that was an interesting mechanic for
right,
me.
yeah. I really like the puzzle of trying to maximize the points in your hand, because you're like, okay, like there's one card that a gold card. I don't know, remember what this guy's name is, but he's worth 20 points. But he gets 20 more points if he's the only gold.
Yeah.
So now you're like trying to make sure you don't get no gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really enjoy the hand management. It's different.
It is.
You know.
And actually, when we played the second time, that actually proved to be my foil, because I had that perfect synergy, and I didn't want to give anybody up to get more cards. So
Right. So yeah, I like that element of this
yeah,
game.
yeah.
So what do you think about the teach?
So even though I think it's easy to teach and easy to learn as far as gameplay and rules, I don't think this is a gateway game.
No, it's not. It's so the rule book is 6 pages long.
But it's not a lot of rules, and it's not complex as far as jumping in and playing. But first of all, the theme is a little bit too heavy for it to be gateway.
Yeah, you can't play this with everybody. You can't play this with grandma. So yeah, I get that. It's really simple to learn. You playing a card, you taking a card,
Yep.
and that's it.
Yep.
But everything else, trying to figure out which cards you keep in your hand. Like you said, you don't want to play this card and you hoping to get that card back, but
Yeah.
it's nothing you can do. So overall, what did you think of Red Rising?
So, Red Rising, it's a well designed game. I really like the hand management. That's a different mechanic for me. That was interesting. It was interesting to try to maximize my points by having combinations of cards.
Right.
So that aspect of it was enjoyable. And honestly, even though you can play the game without knowing the story, I just felt like you missed some stuff. I do believe that the game has a flavor of the theme just by the names of the characters and their
Right.
powers. So I think if you like this kind of game and you like those kinds of stories, you would enjoy it a lot more if you knew at least the first novel.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, I mean that's what I like about it because the game has made me interested in finding out what the story is, and I think, like I say, the more you learn the story, the more you will enjoy the game. And like I'm big fantasy, and that. With that said, I want to thank you for playing this with me because I know this is not your type of thing. You're not going to read the books. So,
No.
me, I will read this,
Yes.
and then go back to the game and be like, okay, that's why so-and-so need to be with this person.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah.
So those are our thoughts of Red Rising. If you like the content of this video, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And like I said, Red Rising, it's a keeper for me. For me. It has a solo mode. Yes. So.
I might play it again with him.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right.
I said I might.
All right. Well, that's good enough. All right. So, I'm Dwayne.
I'm Alicia.
We are Blackboard Gaming, and we will see you next time.